so we can start as the time is short. So good evening, everyone. Ms. Priya Subaraman, Renu Bhandari ma'am, Mr. Josefa, full NSE team and NCL team. मैं सारे मेंबर्स का स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं और हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं. Special thanks to our speaker and guest from NSE and NCL. We are really thankful to you for accepting our request to be present in today's seminar for explaining the finer points of circular on settlement of running accounts and the new circular on penalties also. So it's a very burning topic, and there are circulars on regulatory front, so many of them. Recently we had margins and allocations, and this is a new one. So, but as a customer-centric organization, we have to be focused on the regulatory part, its compliance, and there should not be, as a centric organization, there should not be, there no iota of doubt that we are, customer-centric in our business processes, and we have to conduct our businesses ethically and in a dignified way within the ambit of law and regulation of SEBI and exchanges to achieve continuous growth in our businesses. We may differ from the interpretation of it, but at the end of the day, we have to fall in place for the continuity of business and abide all the rules and regulation of the exchanges and the SEBI. So I'll not take much of the time. I'll request our chief mentor, Ashok Agarwal ji, to speak about the topic, and then I'll request Priya ma'am to address our audiences, and then we'll take it further. Ashok ji.
Thank you, Vadva ji. Madam Priya, Madam Renu, Mr. Josefa, Mr. Shizo, and all other officials, Vadva ji, Sabharwal ji, and all the members. I think it goes without saying, for our business, three most important things are compliance, and compliance, because our business is dependent on that. As Vadva said, it is a client-centric business, but that client-centric business is dependent on compliance and ethical conduct. Everything else will follow. But I will also request exchanges that the idea should be to make sure that members are compliant and are not penalized for technical faults. So wherever there is no intention to do any wrong, but it is only due to technical reasons, I think they should be considerate and they should evolve a system where members are more compliant and are not penalized. And I think I'll just like to brief you. Recently, CPI met SEBI and exchange officials on this quarterly and monthly compliance. And I think many of our concerns have been addressed. Hopefully, we should get a Q&A and a clarification where hopefully after reading the clarification and the new circular, members will be greatly relieved and will be in a position to handle this quarterly and monthly settlement effectively and without much trouble. So I think I'll just stop at that. And Vadva ji, I think we can hand it over to Madam Priya. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Ashok ji.
Thank you.
And as well said, we met SEBI regulator and exchanges, the clearing corp yesterday, and many of our concerns regarding settlement of the running accounts were addressed and our views were taken. Hopefully, those will be addressed. And one thing which was discussed there by the SEBI official, that it is a faith in the market which has brought in 10 crore accounts. And it is just because they are able to, the clients are able to get the assurance that whenever they want, they will get their money back. And this again is a circular or regulation towards that to bring in more confidence amongst the newer clients. I'll request Priya ma'am to address our audience and say a few words on this. Thank you. Over to you, Priya ma'am.
Good evening, Vadvaji, and good evening, Agarwalji. See, the main thing, as Mr. Agarwal already said, compliance, compliance, compliance. I would actually say trust. Trust, and trust. That is, people and trust is really our business, because without that, what else do we have? So, and because of, as you're all aware, अभी जो पिछले 3 साल से from 2019 up to now, जो डिफॉल्ट्स हुए हैं वगैरह वगैरह, उसमें से एक चीज तो निकल आता है, what is very clear to I think all of us, brokers also, frontline regulators, SEBI, and the system in general, is that client asset protection is the key. उसके बाद धंधा तो will come, because our demographics are favorable. And people are becoming, I think many of the people in this call were also part of the Gift City, launch of SGX Connect as well as the Bullion Exchange. And we did hear that from our Prime Minister as well, that the aspiring middle class is going to go more and more into avenues which are more liquid. I don't think the newer class, as they get older, are really interested the way we and our previous generation was interested in gold and, house and all the rest of it. I think they will go for an asset class which they can invest easily, which they can get their money out easily. If we see our own children and they behave very differently from how we used to behave. I think that is the fundamental point. So therefore, if all of us in financial services, our next generation is behaving in a particular manner, one has to sort of attribute that to a larger set of population. Therefore, some of these things are very much in that space. What is the maximum level of protection we can give from a client asset or investor asset protection? Maximum कितना हो सकता है और हम क्या-क्या कर सकते हैं as an industry? जो 2-3 चीज निकल के आई हैं, that the commodities का settlement late होता है, इसीलिए हमको Friday night की वजह से instead of के वजह we should do it on Saturday, or there needs to be some level of thought around किस तरीके से हम दें 225% कहाँ से रखें. जब क्लियरिंग कॉर्पोरेशन कैश मांगती है या कैश इक्विवेलेंट मांगती है, तो वो कैसे हम वो मेंटेन करके at the same time we are able to settle clients. I think these are genuine concerns, and SEBI and the exchanges will also do our best in terms of being able to facilitate, again, as Agarwalji said, to facilitate to the maximum extent possible. But beyond that, the goal is very clear of SEBI as well, and specifically the SEBI chairperson also. Very, very clear in terms of saying that we don't want to see another default. We certainly do not want to see a market in which somebody, goes away with X number of crores and दो चीजें होती हैं. रेणु जी का तो लाइफ बहुत खराब हो जाता है at that stage. कोई भी एक भी चला जाता है तो she is the maximum pressured in NSE. That is one part. Secondly, हमारी सारी community जो का नुकसान होता है from a reputation perspective. So the first thing is, as almost everybody, and I have been on your side of the table as well. I've said this many, many times, and I don't very, very much like it when people say कि brokers सारे तो ऐसे ही हैं. That's not the fact. So if we look at even NSE, and I've said this before as well, जो भी defaults हुए हैं, it is not common. It is not. In fact, a month and a half ago, when there was this now large numbers which were some trade जो हो गया था, जो गलत था, जो भी है, I mean by mistake. तो आप लोगों से ही फोन आया था कि say कि is the system capable of taking this? Are we, from a system perspective, are we safe, etc. So the few people that that are unfortunately, you know, contributing to the amount of pain that this industry has taken for the past 3 years. You know, hopefully that we are at an end. And I've actually told Renu, and I promised other people as well, that जब API एक बार आ जाएगा तो आपका compliance burden भी कम हो जाएगा. Hopefully it will work well and we will be able to take information, cash equivalent, bank book, ledger वगैरह. तो फिर आपका कंप्लायंस बर्डन भी कम हो जाएगा. हाँ, एंड देन बैक ऑफिस वेंडर्स का तो आ ही रहा है इन टर्म्स ऑफ registration of back office vendors. So then we will take the information from you. We don't need, you know, one industry at the back of it. सिर्फ NSE को information भेजने के लिए इतने लोग नहीं चाहिए. हमको जब चाहिए होगा हम आपको बता देंगे, आप पुश कर देना. So hopefully that will make your life easier as well. As I said earlier, there are very specific comments which talks of market timing. You're not against the idea, but there are very clear comments and concerns again, you know, as with respect to market timing, with respect to the fact that ये जो collateral है, it is divided into parts, and therefore a particular call needs to be taken on some parts vis-a-vis some other parts. So that I think Renu can, you know, add more color. And as the questions flow in, so Renu is there, Sai is there, and we have our NCL team as well who will answer. So I will stop here. I will just say that, you know, I think it's important. वो trust जो है, you know, the fact that पैसा आ जाएगा. First Friday of the quarter or month पैसा आ जाएगा. Our own bank accounts, they depend on certain things. कि वो दिन तो आना ही है पैसा. So that trust is what we want to build. Thank you very much for facilitating this particular meeting. You know, we are happy to take whatever questions members have and whichever way they've connected. And thanks certainly for inviting me.
Thank you, Priya ma'am. Thank you. Point well taken. Trust is the main thing. And in my initial remarks also, there should not be, I mean, I would have doubt that we are handling the client's money and we have to protect. We are custodian of that only. And we have to protect that. So, but again, one point I'll just put in here. Say, I've been following Apple launches all these years. So what I have seen that over the years, they have tried to simplify the use of the Apple. I mean, ease to use that product. So at one point of time, we have to consider that all regulation must be there. I totally agree. But at client as investors should not suffer because of these hard things, that we have to take a balance of that. So before I go further, I'll request my colleague Varinder Mansukhani ji to give few of the issues which he would like to highlight. So after that, I'll request Renu ma'am to go through the FAQs and take it forward. Varinder ji, are you there?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, panelists. So, ma'am, coming straight to the point, I think some deliberation took place yesterday at SEBI also on what are the concerns, and so some of them have been highlighted to you. From industry perspective, you know, the most common concern for all of us is that the 50-50 ratio, because the CC is expecting us to have in the ratio of 50-50, we should be allowed to retain cash which is equivalent to 50% of the total margin, even if the non-cash is more, because otherwise everybody will end up only depledging the non-cash component on the date of settlement and again repledging it, which will be a exercise which will not result anything. So if instead of the 225, 112.5% of the margin is retained, allowed to be retained in cash, I think that will solve most of the problem which members will otherwise face, because they have to release the cash and the non-cash will continue to lie with them. So for our perspective, this is one very big challenge which we see. The next issue which we see is a lot of clients tend to trade intraday, or intraday they tend to go up in a significant number, whereas their end of day margin is very small. So our submission is, even the SEBI circular actually says EOD/peak margin, but the way NSE came with a clarification, it said only look at EOD margin. So there is a sort of deviation between what the SEBI circular said and what NSE circular says. So our submission is that we should be allowed to retain on basis of peak margin also, because there are some clients who trade mostly intraday. So for those clients specifically, so if we are allowed to benchmark the peak margin as the retention balance, that will be very helpful. Otherwise, we will release the money and on Monday, the money actually cannot come back as fast. and therefore those clients will not be available in the system to trade, and God forbid if there's a large movement on that particular Monday, many people will feel a great loss of opportunity from their perspective. And lastly, our concern is that whatever balance is retained with the CC is already clearly visible to the CC. So what is the point of forcing a release of cash which is visible clearly to the CC? If we are clearly allocating that cash to the CC, that should be due compliance, which is only money which is not lying with the CC, which should be kind of have to be released on the date of settlement. So these three are our primary concerns from an industry perspective, and rest as you will give us in your opinion, and members can then ask their questions on how things should flow. Thank you. वाधवा जी आप म्यूट पे हैं.
Thank you, Varinder ji. I'll request Renu ma'am to go through the FAQs and take it further.
Yeah, thank you, Vadva ji. Thank you, Ashok ji, Mansukhani ji, Mr. Sabharwal, and all other members, CPI, and other members who have joined this webinar. Thank you so much once again for actually organizing this event. And as Mr. Vadva said, Mansukhani ji said, yesterday we had a meeting. It was a joint meeting. Members were also there, exchanges were there, and the clearing corporations also were there, because in case on a Friday they require releases, so their role also will come in. So I won't go much into detail, because all of us know that there is not much of a change. Instead of any day, brokers used to actually select which day has to be settled. Now it is fixed, so that investor also knows that it is 4 Fridays when his money will come back. And if it is monthly, then of course every month, first Friday, he will get his payout. And he also knows that my account will get settled. So nothing much in terms of when we say the rule has been changed, any retention has been changed. But what Mr. Mansukhani ji said, these issues were discussed yesterday also with SEBI. And exchanges also have given their views. So as you said, on first aspect was on 50-50, where you said that with the clearing corporation, if I'm not deploying any my proprietary cash, and then if client has already given and the excess securities are there, in such cases, we will have to return the cash. So the point was well taken, because ultimately 50% cash has to be there. So they are considering it. They will come back within a week, as Mr. Trivedi promised also, because this has to go live. It has to go live from first week of October. So therefore, the clarification should come fast. And as you all are aware, we also prepared the FAQ also, which we wanted to release, but kept it on hold because of yesterday's meeting. So once meeting happens and any suggestion, any feedback is there, which is being considered, then accordingly, one final FAQ can go instead of revising it. Few things which members wanted from us, that few more clarifications were there, which are operational. Of course, we will also be replying through FAQ, but since it may take another 2-3 days to come to market, we can clarify, because most of the questions we are getting, apart from these 50-50, as I said, we discussed with SEBI. For EOD and peak also, we discussed with SEBI, and members also represented. Only thing is that when we look at EOD requirements and peak requirement difference, I agree it is there. But if client account is getting settled kind of once in a quarter, if we are able to return money to him based on the EOD requirements, and already we are retaining to 25%, which may suffice the peak requirements as well, if next day client is intending to trade in the market. So they will look into it. But this is the reason behind considering the EOD or not considering the peak. And the last thing which we are saying, that these are 3 major issues. One is, one of them is the cash which is retained by CC, which means the collateral which is lying with the CC. We are saying this should not be given back to client, because it is already in the hands of clearing corporations. So the main objective, as Priya also said and Ashok ji also said, we are building the trust in the market. So client knows that he will get money on this Friday. So allocation, etc., is done by members, client-wise allocation, which goes to CC. one day at least client knows that my account has got settled and this is what his position is. If any requirement of retention also is there, so retention can be done. But as soon as we move forward, like yesterday also it was discussed that when we change in settlements, etc., then of course we can look at that how the settlement of client account also can be done. So apart from these three major issues, there was one more issue that in case a client is to be settled during the month of September, which is kind of a monthly settlement or a quarterly settlement. I settle now and you are telling me that on 7th of October, I should settle again. So I am just burdening my system by settling this client again and again. Why don't you allow me to settle only on 7th of October and I will club with the settlement. So this issue SEBI also agreed on that we should not be burdening the members. Therefore, any settlement which will come in the month of September, which is either monthly or quarterly, can be clubbed with the October, first week of October. For that, we have already sent a mail to SEBI. As soon as we get a confirmation, we will circulate it to the ANMI, CPI, and VBF so that they can circulate to members also. So this can be done. One more aspect was being discussed on any new client comes during the quarter. So if somebody has got registered during the quarter, then whether that also needs to be settled or not. So again, it was clarified that if a new client comes during the quarter, it may not be settled. In the next quarter, it is required to be settled. But if a client is registered in this quarter and money comes in next quarter, then next quarter also is exempted. So answer is no. So that cannot be done. Only the quarter under which the client has been registered should be exempted. Another aspect, which again, these are the most often queries which we are receiving now on inactive client. Also, we were receiving queries that now since you have fixed Friday for all the clients, whether it is on a monthly basis or it is on a quarterly basis, do we really want that the clients who have not traded in last 30 days, their accounts also should be settled? So the answer is again yes, because this client has not traded. So why to wait for a full quarter? If client is not trading for last 30 days, let us return their money. So these are the common questions which were coming. Now I leave the floor open for the questions. If anybody from your side also can facilitate, then we can give answer to each questions one by one. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So I request Varinder ji to again come in and pose a common question, although have been addressed by ma'am. But again, I'll request Varinder ji to come in and have some more.
Bhadra ji, YouTube के questions कैसे आएंगे मेरे पास? I can't see.
Rishant is posting here on the chat, cutting it from there and pasting it.
Nishant will post from the YouTube channel. Okay. Because if I get questions here, then only I'll be able to coordinate. तब तक शिव जी आपका कोई एक दो क्वेश्चन था, अगर वो आप पूछना चाहें पहले तो.
So in case you are just settling for the questions, can I also brief in 5 minutes about the circular which we have issued on enforcement actions on
yes,
members?
You can brief that and then we will take up the questions together.
I'll take just 5 minutes only.
Right.
I'll brief and then I think we can take the questions together.
Sure.
Yeah. So another circular which we have issued last Friday is actually on enforcement actions on members. This circular is nothing but one is that we have tried to consolidate all the penalties into one circular, because there were a lot of circulars which were there, and members need to refer each and every circular when they look at what are the penal provisions. And the main objective, this is not the main objective of only clubbing the circulars. This we achieved. The main objective was based on the feedback actually from the members that from the start of inspection until the action letter is issued, we are taking a lot of time to communicate to members that these are the penalties which have been levied, what action they should take, what corrective action they should take. So the time which is taken is substantial time. So we thought of crunching this time, and accordingly we have revised our process of enforcement. Earlier, we used to give POS, which is preliminary observation sheet, which we used to give while concluding the inspection. So we thought that we can eliminate this because the letter of observation and POS is almost the same. We write everything what is written in POS also in letter of observation also. So therefore, we thought we can eliminate this step, which is letter of observation. And in fact, while giving the letter of observation, we will also include the penalty amount, which is as per the provision of the circular, is applicable if this is a non-compliance, so that the members are aware that this non-compliance attract how much penalty also. And secondly, the penalty would be levied after we receive the reply. So final penalty would be levied after we receive the reply. So we will be giving letter of observation based on the reply. We will be finalizing, and accordingly action letter would be issued along with the final penalty amount. What we are requesting members to, when the team is coming for inspection or it is an offsite alert, all of you know that nowadays we are running a lot of online systems and send couple of alerts to members. One major one is, you are aware, is looking at the creditors availability, then looking at margin sufficiency, and also seeing whether the client accounts have been settled or not. These are the three major alerts which we are looking for the entire market. When I say entire market, all brokers as well as all the clients associated with them. So here, as soon as the alert is generated, we send the alert to member, and based on the response, we again take the enforcement action. There again, we issue letter of observation, then reply is received, then it is represented to committee, etc. So all those process of placing it to the committee, etc., will go, because one is that at the time of asking in reply of alert, what you give in the letter of observation also. So it is a double work for members also. So that also will get eliminated, and only one leg would be left, which is reply to the letter of observation. So once we issue the action letter, you also can take corrective action timely, so that those non-compliances can be rectified. One request: when inspection teams are coming to you and giving you any query or any observation, please give the detailed reply along with the supporting documents, so that they can understand whether there was a compliance or actually there is no issue. And similarly, during alert closure also, if you give right evidence, then team will be able to close the alert effectively. And afterwards, if any reply comes once action letter is issued, etc., then it is actually hassle for you also and for us also. So my request to all members, that please give all the documents required along with the supporting reply, along with the supporting documents in time, so that actions can be accurate. One thing only which we are observing in processing offsite alert is that submissions are not coming right. Even though we have introduced API, we are still getting incorrect submissions of cash and cash equivalent also, bank balances also, and holding statement, and which is resulting in false positive alerts. So I would request all members, please give data from your back office, because if you run back office, do some sanity check manually, then again the data will not come right to exchange, and alerts are getting generated on the basis of this data. So please give data from your back office, so that there is no error when it comes to exchange. In holding statement, mostly we are getting the issues pertaining to the EPI, etc., which is in the block, but members are reporting it. Sometimes they're not considering the corporate actions, and again the holding is not coming right. At times the PAN numbers are not correct when they are uploading the files. Why PAN is not correct? Because in DP, client PAN is something else, and in UCC it is something else, and while uploading the holding it is something else. I am not saying that these numbers are major numbers, but even though it is minor, still false positive alerts are getting generated, not only at exchange end but also at SEBI end. SEBI also is creating client holding, and there also the wrong holding is getting generated, and again we need to take it up with the members, asking clarification on those alerts. Ultimately, it is getting closed without any observation of any misuse, etc., but with the incorrect reporting. So now this incorrect reporting also SEBI is viewing very, very seriously. They are saying that why every time the reporting is not coming right, and what kind of actions are taken on such incorrect reporting. So again and again, I am emphasizing on the right reporting, because we are finding a lot of cases of incorrect reporting. So please look into your system, how you are uploading it. Do this through API. Do not do any your manual intervention. Currently, we've done cash and cash equivalent and bank balances, and maybe next week we'll start with the holding statement also. We started all three together, but since we found that members were not able to upload all three together, we have now done away with this cash and cash equivalent and bank. Next week we will go live with the holding, and soon we plan to take even the bank books through API and entire inspection data. So I would suggest that you can have your systems right at your place, so that you are ready for giving data of inspection also through API. This will reduce your burden of giving data to us. You can just push this data to us during inspections. So this is it on enforcement action also. If any questions are there, we will take together with the settlement of client account. Thank you, Vardaji.
Thank you, ma'am. So this was about the new laws on penalties and inspections. So since we have team from Clearing Corp also, Mr. Sujo is there and his team is there. So one of the point we discussed yesterday was infrastructure in place in case of settlement of the running account. How much time will it take, a turnaround time for deallocation and release of funds? Anything on that, Sujo, on this, Mr. Sujo?
So Zephyr here. Basically, sir, like we said yesterday also, the system is already in place for deallocation and release of cash as well as FDR. People can do it intraday any point of time. They can request for cash and FDR also. And like we said yesterday, any electronic FDR, we send a communication automatically to bank, so the FDR release will go within 15 to 20 minutes. For cash also, any request given till 4:15, we release it intraday immediately. Any end of day request given till 6 o'clock gets credited by 8:30 in bank. And like it was requested for that specific day, if required, we can increase the intraday release timing from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock if required. So if people want their cash back, we can do that. So we will be more than happy to help for all release requests and processes as soon as possible. And whatever extension of time is required on that particular day for placing request, we will be more than happy to do.
Yeah, thank you, Sujo. One obvious question again, although Virendraji will be taking it. So what happens if the settlement day happens to be a holiday, or say next day happens to be a holiday? Over to you, Renu ma'am.
So if settlement day happens to be a holiday, then we can take the previous day. So SEBI also has clarified, and they have also said yesterday that if there is any issue in that settlement day also, then exchanges can together take decision of deciding that day for settlement and communicate to SEBI, and they can decide. Otherwise, as per rule currently, if it is not a Friday, then the previous day.
So as regards your point on inspection, so our my colleague Rakesh Jainji from South Asia, he has just mentioned his observation that the back office vendors are not aware and they don't have the knowledge of the big queries based on these alerts, resulting into unnecessary work from the broker side. Can't we have session with vendors, exchange from the exchange end, so that they are also aware of this and they can guide us for it?
You are absolutely right. So what we did when SEBI also started generating alerts, and we also had set our online systems. So we also did meetings with the back office vendors and informed them wherever we were facing issues, so that those can be set right in their systems. From the back office, the data can be extracted right. But we can do more and more sessions, no doubt about it. And what I am doing currently, I've told team to actually make batches, because we found in last 12 months how many members are either coming repeatedly or once or twice also if they've come. So we are putting a batches of 10 along with the back office vendor. So soon we will be intimating you. We will do a batch of 10 members, and so that quantum YM we are keeping less, so that we can handhold also. So we would be doing it with back office vendors again, but last time also we did. This is an ongoing exercise and we need to keep on doing. So we will certainly do. But I also agree that in some cases, as I said, false positive also goes to members because of the system refining at SEBI end or our end also, which we are doing. Our refining we have almost done. In settlement, we will have to do, because settlement is a new system which will be live from 1st of October, first week of October. Margin and creditors availability all is set now. So we don't find any issues which we need to fine tune. But SEBI had recently actually developed with SEBI alerts where they create holding. There were some false positive, few for member, few for the system refinement at SEBI end also, which they have now fixed. Almost everything is fixed. And if I tell you, the number of alerts have been reduced drastically. When we say for the entire market, they are building holding for client. And if it comes in only thousands, which means it's a very minuscule. But still, the chairman wants there should not be any alert, there should not be any instance. So therefore, we are taking it up with members. And if it is false positive because of system refining, we have done those refinings. Now they will not receive.
So out of these 10,000, 14,000 observation alerts at SEBI, and how many were false alarms?
No, actually 80% was because of incorrect reporting by members. 20-30% was because of their refining system.
Okay. So thank you for answering that. Varindaji, over to you.
Yeah. So ma'am, continuing the same topic, there are certain types of alerts which we have seen have come up multiple times. As member, we have seen, for example, the KUFA stock which is retained with us is not accounted for in the margin computation when you see, or for example, in the peak margin, if we release the stock on, say, a T-day evening, and because it's not available at the end of the day, it is not accounted for confirmation of peak. So we observed that kind of a repeated number of alerts coming through. So how long does the turnaround time generally take for you to refine, when you've seen the responses and realize that, yes, this is a genuine issue at the member end or a systemic issue?
Right. So for, as I said, for creditors availability, system is perfectly okay now. For margins, EOD margin system is perfectly okay. For peak margin, we are facing 2 to 3 issues. One is that, again, peak for different segment is different, which creates a problem. Second, as you rightly said, on another problem is that T+2, morning when you capture the peak, where the margin is released for you in your ledger, you are not able to show, but for us actually it is available, and it is capturing in the peak margin file. So internally we have plugged this issue. We will be taking some data from the clearing corporation, wherein we can take how much margin is released for that particular client on T2 day, and we can exclude before giving it to you, because all these things are not getting captured in any file. We need to look at our own data, refine it further, so that we can capture in this online system. Nowhere in the margin file it is getting capped. So we are hopeful in another 15 days we will be able to fix this also, because these are the data sets. When we took the feedback and took the response, we came to know these are the issues which are still there, and we need to fine tune. So peak margin also would be done maybe in 10 to 15 days.
Okay. So peak will resolve in some time. So my colleague Jay, who's there on the panel also, I think had a concern. I think I'll let Jay take up his question first and then take up the other questions.
Yeah, thanks, Surendraji. Sorry, I'm traveling actually, so there would be a lot of noise around. But my question is, in terms of final margin file which we receive, the file tends to come very late. So by, when we can expect, these things to be streamlined.
Josefa, you will take this? Sijo or Josefa?
So, see, the final margin informations are the information required for computing final margins are anyway available to members, and necessary tools are available, like the end of the span files and things. Over and above that, we are providing intraday snapshots also for all type of margins. Plus, we are trying to work on way where we know at least after close of market hours also, if we can, provide provisional margins after the close of market hours. So that is something work in progress, and we'll come back on that also. Otherwise, tools to compute end of day margins are already available, where people have the end of day span files and end of day settlement prices available mostly by 5 p.m. and based on which they can have their software compute the margin. Because of the lot of interconnections and dependencies of activities, the actual end of day files comes delayed and more specifically on the expiry date. But we are trying to work on some tools where we can at least give some provisional margins after market close.
Josefa, the concern is also in respect of now the EOD margin being the basis for settlement, and on a particular day when we have to settle all customers, it is really a big challenge. I mean, see, whatever back office system we may use, it may deviate by 1-2% from what number your system is going to compute finally at the end of the day. And when I'm settling, I need to pay the exact amount. There cannot be even a small deviation. Because sometimes some symbol, some nifty 6 months away strike will have a higher exposure margin. I mean, broadly my span will calculate fine, but somewhere exposure margin will be at a slight deviation, so on and so forth. That's why we need the final number from you before we can shout the settlement, quarterly settlement numbers. There we cannot have this kind of a deviation. So on that day of settlement, unless you give us the file by whatever 410, 415, how do we even come back to you with the exact number of the to be released from?
So I think the 410, 415 though is definitely not something which is practical. But yeah, like I said, the tools are available. People can compute, and we have at least
As I explained to
is
you,
not there. Deviations are will have to work, but we are trying to work on providing provisional margins based on whatever numbers are available post market also.
no, so that's my exact point, because on a normal day it is fine, but on the day of settlement, since we have to release everything, it becomes a matter of exact amount to be computed. It cannot be an approximation of 2-3% here and there works. It doesn't work on those days.
So Mansukhani, just I'll add one more thing. Like we are doing in current scenario, we are settling the client accounts. Though the way we are now doing it, similar way we will have to do. I know one fine day, but it will be for all the clients.
I would like to interject and give an answer to this question, because you had earlier also raised, what is the difference between earlier and now? The difference between earlier and now is earlier, since I had 225% retention, the day on which the client had 150% margin, that day I would mark him easily settled. But now, because you are forcing all clients to be done on a particular day, all clients will not be at 150% margin. Somebody will be at 5% margin. Then when I'm trying to retain a 225, I need an exact number to retain 225. So if my system has calculated 1 lakh as the margin of the client and exchange file comes at 98,000, I will retain 225% of 1 lakh. And then you will say I have not released the adequate amount of collateral to the client, and you will raise a penalty of 5,000 per instance. So I mean, this fact that the CC is not able to give us the number by 415, which is the final number, and then you want us to settle on an accurate basis to the client by giving him funds, is something which is a mismatch in the systems. So if we are to be ready on 1st of October, the CC also has to be ready to give us the final number of the margin. Otherwise, how do we compute the final 225% retention? So the ecosystem has to evolve. I mean, members are making their effort, but the entire ecosystem has to evolve parallelly and only then we will be able to meet the first week of October target.
Yeah, Virendraji, we discussed it yesterday, and we discussed it with the CCs. So they are gearing up for that. So let us hope that before this settlement takes place, they will gear up to this.
Okay. So I will now take up the questions which have come from different members. So the first question which has come is what you had already mentioned, was discussed perhaps yesterday, which is that in case of commodities, the file comes post midnight. What is the final margin? And we are supposed to settle on the same day's margin. So when the number itself is indeterminate, how do we settle the client when the margin file has not come in from the exchange? And even for NSE, as JG has pointed out, that the files tend to come quite late in the evening, post the bank processing cutoff times. So those two questions have come in, that how are we expected to settle when the final number is not available to us?
So this was also discussed yesterday, that we are not saying that within the banking hours it has to be given, even though my file goes to bank, although it may not get debited immediately, because as you are rightly saying that it may happen that file has gone after the banking hours, etc. The transfer is happening next day. So if we have given the file to the bank mentioning all those details of the clients who have to be refunded, that is fine for now. We will see in the first settlement what all issues are faced. SEBI also said yesterday, then accordingly we will take next steps further.
Same day to my bank को file दे ही नहीं सकता. If the margin of MCX comes at past midnight on the same calendar day, I even cannot upload electronically that request. That is the exact question which the member has posed.
No, so for again, you said that when client was it required to give any money back? Earlier we were doing that way. So that was the exact question from SEBI also, that currently
And
how
the
we
answer
do
is
it.
so the answer is very clear. I was settling on a day when he had used margin which was as per retention 70% of the margin he has used on a particular day. On that day I marked settlement in the last 10 days, whichever day he does this. But now you are forcing me to settle all clients on a given day. That is what is creating the problem of exact computation, which was not there in the earlier scenario.
So that is where actually the SEBI also comes, that which means that the clients are not getting settled. See, ultimately it was when no client was given back the money, kind of.
It's not the case that no client was given the money. The client was settled on a day of his convenience when he had adequate margin, but he also had a cushion so that the system was not disturbed. Now, if you want to settle, we are on board, but you have to give us the data points to be able to settle.
No, so actually the issue was, and the question was that, which means, as you said, that it is the day of settlement when he wants, but it is the day of settlement when we feel comfortable, because there is enough requirement so that nothing is to be given. So their issue also was that how come this issue is not getting plugged earlier, that we can't take the EOD files when we are settling any client. But nevertheless, for commodity clients also, he was telling yesterday that to Mr. Badwa, that you can tell us what issue you are facing. While you look at even the evening snapshots, what is the difference at your end also, you can see your files, like Josefa was also mentioning, how much margin could be there anyway, 225% you have to retain. So accordingly, you can have some system at your end so that you can compute and do. If any issues would be there, he also said next time we'll see that how we take it forward. So first time, let us do that.
In the most simple of cases where a client has given 100 rupees all cash margin and his margin in intraday is at 5 p.m. is 10 rupees. I don't know, by evening it will become 15 or 20. How do I define 225% of what? 10, 15, 20? What should I define that 225% of?
See, ultimately, Mansukhani ji, it may be that you may not retain entire 225%. You might have end up retaining less. But that is also fine, because next day again you will get back your money. See, if he has to trade, he can give you back. Today you are saying that 225% you are defining. If margin increases, maybe it will reach to 100% only. That whatever you have retained 100%. So no bar that you have to always retain to 25% only. You can always retain less and give remaining money back. So in
Yes.
such situations, currently it will be that you are retaining only 100% and giving the entire money back. But let us see first time how it happens. And with the real life examples, then accordingly we can go. We can go to SEBI also. We can also internally decide based on the examples that what all real life examples would be there. We can discuss.
Okay.
So add to ma'am, yesterday I was also in the meeting. So what was discussed here, there is a transition period. And once we test, what are the issues in the first phase, we'll address those issues also as you, ma'am has just mentioned. So let us face it and, the intent should be there to settle it. Rest, they say that no penalty will be there if intent is there to settle it. Am I right?
Ultimately, if you are thinking of 225%, you may end up keeping only maybe 100% or 125%. Rest of the amount will go back because the margin is increased. So in those scenarios, I think you should not feel next day again you can ask client if he is trading, take back the money. But yes, all these issues can be looked at, and in the next before the next settlement comes, the next quarter, we can take it up that these issues which we faced, and accordingly these needs to be addressed.
One more question, many people have raised us, like if I settle it in the morning and get back money in the evening, that will be taken as a settled. No? Suppose on Friday, I give back the money to my client and he returns it on the same day. So that will be treated as settled.
See, ideally, yes, Madhvaji. Only thing is that since we will have to find out how do we do because we have developed online system. So end of the day, balance will remain the same. Online system will throw us alert. But anyway, we are thinking of capturing, we will soon come up wherein we can capture that how much money you have released. Then we will have to see how much money you received back on the same day so that we can exclude the both and then look at the ledger balance. So if we will find there are many instances of such type, we will include 2 more columns to
I
get
think
the right results.
from exchange end, you should take it holistically. I mean,
Yes.
my intent was to return it and it was returned and they have to execute next day's trade. They have returned it back. I think you should take it that way only. Varinderji.
I have a suggestion here.
Yeah. Varinder.
Ma'am, if as you are capturing this peak margin, the highest credit or lowest debit balance of each client through some of your processes, you can simultaneously capture the lowest balance also to check this to keep this check on the settlement.
So what we are doing, we are not adding it in cash and cash equivalent because ultimately going forward, we will stop this and we will only consider the segregation data which is coming to CC for computation of creditors availability also, for margin also, and for settlement also, because this is the ultimately client balance.
Got your point. But then you have to evolve some system for capturing this.
There we will add one column. We have already deliberated with all exchanges. We have added one column, which means we are proposing to add one column wherein we will capture how much money you are transferring to the client.
That will be great.
So we will take, but as Mr. Madhva said, that same day he'll give back. So I'll have to have one more column for how much money has come back, because those things needs to be matched.
That won't be required. How much money come back? That the required column would only be that how much money we transferred to the client.
No, that I'll explain how and why it would be required. I'll separately get in touch with you, because then ledger balance will increase. We will look at only the ledger balance. So ledger balance again, end of the day would be again 50,000, which should not have been 50,000, which should have been only 10,000 after settling. So I will have that amount also, which is received on that day after you have settled. So that amount we will not have.
That is a technical problem for all of us. Then kindly look at it.
Sure.
Varinderji.
So the other related questions is that you are expecting that we will release the funds on the same day. Many times, as the CC also pointed out, instruments are not EFBRs. instruments are regular FDRs and the member has requested for a release, the bank will take time to process and credit back those funds. So unless a turnaround time is defined and the member is able to actually encash those FDs, he will not be able to pay out on the same business day. So that is the next question which has come, that how members should be able to solve that, specifically if say second Saturday is a holiday.
So the answer to this is, Mansukhani ji, we receive cash from the client, right? We create FDs and then give it to clearing corporations. So in such situations, if we know that how much probable cash would be required, let us pass this as it is. If it comes as a cash, let us pass this as cash only to CCs, so that there is no hassle of again taking the FD if it is physical. Of course, few banks are online now, which can be taken. It could be HDFC, ICICI. Other banks are also there who are giving online FDs. But if you talk about offline FDs, then we will have to decide with the time that we don't keep such FDs which require physical encashment, etc. Because ultimately we get money from the client. If we pass same money to CC, then this would not be required.
So there's a general concern from Khaneja ji that despite so many harsh penalties which have already come in and so much of the system has got cleaned, why do we still want to enforce a same day settlement across the market and put the entire market at risk?
So yesterday also it was discussed. SEBI also wants, and of course exchanges also, that let us test the system on one day, so that it is popularized in the market, and clients also know that this is one day when my account gets settled. So this would, I think, not only the objective is one, that one client money is not getting rotated, etc., for other clients. So this will test it, that every client is getting money back, whatever is in excess of their margin, etc. And second is, I feel, with my perspective, if you feel it is client awareness. Today, client doesn't know how and why and what is the settlement. So client will know that this is a Friday when their account gets settled. So they know they can at least check that Friday only. Today, they don't even know. They keep getting, as you also know, we keep sending the messages, we keep sending the emails, trade confirmation से लेके सेटलमेंट का और कितने अवेयरनेस मैसेजेस का, तो उनको मालूम नहीं है कौन सा देखना है. So if this Friday gets popularized, they will know that yes, this is the Friday I have to look at my settlement. So let's look this objective and work towards it.
Okay. So the next question has come is, basically it's related to the same, that if the exchange margin files are received by us at 6 p.m., then our cycles are all haywire. Do we get some kind of a cushion in such cases when the exchange files get delayed for whatever reason, the settlement day or whatever scenarios come in?
See, generally we take anything introduced new, that compliance requirement we take leniently, all of you are aware. So it's not that on the day we will reach everyone and say that show us the books, etc. So even in the pledge repledge, you remember when it came in 2020, first 15 days was relaxed. The securities were either with the pledge repledge or not. Some securities were with the members, some securities were in transit. So we had issued circular also on that during these 15 days there will be no penalty, etc. And we have taken those months leniently when it comes to margin, incorrect reporting, etc. So nothing to write, nothing to say, but of course, if any genuine problem is there, we will certainly look at it and accordingly decide. It's not one side diktat.
Okay. So one of the questions which has come in from the members is, that specifically for small members, they feel they do not have the tools to compute the margin at their end. So can the CC or the exchange provide some tool wherein, they import the position because they are able to see their entire position and compute the accurate margins, so that they can then settle it on the same day basis, that number. Even if the exchange central file is taking time to come, if you give a centralized tool where member can simply push in all the positions and check what is the margin on that, then the member will be in a better position to solve for this problem.
So Josefa, you can suggest something on this? I remember initial days we used to take some
No, I think most
was
of the
there having the
CPCL, most of the front office already have capability to import span margins and positions and compute. So I think most of the people
Josefa,
have that capability of computing margins.
no, Josefa, the problem is always the corner cases. You know, this more than 6 months, more than 10%
No,
of
no,
this
sir. So
90%.
that more than 6 months, more than 10 months don't change at EOD, sir. They are always changes at BOD, sir. So they are always published on previous day. All your ELM numbers also are published previous day. All those numbers are available. No numbers change at EOD. Everything changes only at BOD, sir. So that numbers are like I said here also, all tools to compute are already available, sir.
See, the point is, I mean, members are asking, that's why I'm asking the same question. Eventually, people do not get
Sir, so like we said earlier also, it's the same question has come at time of allocation also. We are saying the tools and informations are already available. It is just that has to be used to compute it, sir. And nevertheless, like we said, sir, we are still working on giving information on provisional margins just after market closes. If we can, compute and give, but that again will be still provisional because positions can change because of, give up confirmations and things like that. So otherwise, anyway, we are trying to see that how we can also start giving any provisional numbers. So that we are looking into it.
Actually, the problem is not only with the long dated options, Josefa. I can give you some examples offline. There are some complex hedged positions with the options where a good renowned front-end software is not capable to give the accurate number of margin.
Sure, sir, you can share the numbers, but what our understanding is, and we have been doing this and checking also cross-checking, that our margin numbers, if you put the same portfolio in span, the EOD, at least the span numbers are completely telling. And ELM, again, like I said, the tools are available, calculations are available, and we can definitely help you in calculating.
No, we have observed very huge gap in the margin requirement in some of the complex positions, even in the very good renowned popular front-end software.
So that maybe some understanding issue, but we can definitely take it offline and check it out.
Sure.
Rinder, you can take it up with the Josefa, separately.
Yes.
Vinderji, you have any issue or number of questions are there? How many questions are there?
No. I think most of the questions are covered. Rest are mostly people expressing their discomfort. So I'll leave those questions out.
Why it is not stopping? Why regulations are not stopping? Some over regulation is happening. So, but say again, our request from CPI goes every time that there should be ease of doing business also must be taken care of. So we'll again emphasize that to the regulator, to the exchanges again and again. Anything you want to say, Shiv Kumarji, on this? Then we will conclude.
I will express a lot of thanks to whole and I think yesterday also and the regulator received very positively the 3 requests about the quarterly thing that the funds with the CC could be considered for and with the CC itself and they need not to be settled and the peak margin instead of the EOD and 50-50 things. I think they were open on all the 3 things and final thing will come from Renu Bhandari ji and she is helping us a lot in getting the things in this way. So we are grateful to the whole NSE team in getting this work out. I think with this Saturday, this September, not account need not to be settled and could be in the 1st October. That was again positive. And Josefa ji assured us the clearing corporations will be doing the things in a fastest manner in terms of giving the deallocation and as well as the release of margin. I think it should work out hopefully. And they also assured that for first time quarterly settlement, as long as we have done the processes in time and we have the required evidences, I think there will not be any penalty, etc. on that part. This is what we understood yesterday. I think issues thing is this particularly is the commodities since they are closing in the night. How do we get the determined figure of margin and 225% of that? That is still remains. So if we could, I think that is where we stand, Vadvaji. And yeah.
Thank you, Shivkumarji. Thank you, Shivkumarji. So there were around 150 members on the YouTube who were watching this. So I'll thank entire NSE team. Any concluding remark, Priya ma'am, if you are there?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Wadhwa.
Yeah. So thank you very much, team NSE, team NCL. I'll request my colleague, Mr. Sabharwal, to give concluding, final vote of thanks, if he is there. Sabharwal ji?
Yeah, he's there.
No, he is there. I think he is traveling. So I'll request my chairman of South, Mr. Arya, to propose a vote of thanks, please. Sabharwal ji,
yeah. Shall I go ahead?
Mute. Sabharwal ji, unmute करिए, unmute. Sabharwal ji, unmute करिए.
हाँ जी, आर्या साहब बोलो.
अच्छा, okay, thank you, sir, thank you. On behalf of the CPI entire team, I thanks Madam Priya and entire NSE team for such a nice all clarifications and for the assurance that things will be moving very, very fast and with a lot of considerations. And I thank all the members, those entire country taking part through YouTube and all with a very, very, very interesting manner. Thank you very much to all. Thank you, sir.
Sabharwal ji, your words, final words.
Maria Saab has said that is more than sufficient. On behalf of the CPI and we are thankful not only to Madam Priya, Madam Renu Bhandari, Mr. Hofeza, their team, but thanks to those 150 and other members also who participated. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.